everyone, and welcome back to the campaign diary for my Rime of the Frostmaiden campaign, Aracséa edition. In today's session, the party battle a chain devil, Rime learns a Thakari secret, and engage in a rather emotional set of moments. So for those keeping track of time, the session will end on the late afternoon of the 18th of Kaerulthin, with one long rest being taken during the day. So there's a lot to unpack with this episode, and I know I said the Frostmaiden episode was my favourite session so far, but this one definitely takes that title. In fact, I had everyone message me saying that it was a fantastic session. Dan had a tear in his eye at one point, Carl would not stop gushing about it, and we all had a very proud moment in Susie, Mutiny's player, who is usually shies away from RP, but she really came into her own in a particular part of this session. So we begin this session with a sleight of hand roll, actually, as Mutiny had private messaged me saying that she wanted to take the animal skins, that had the arcane writing on them, about the diabolic binding without anyone noticing, which she succeeds and no one notices. Obviously that being quite pivotal to her story perhaps in the future. So we then just went straight into initiative. I ran this chain devil pretty much as written, except I had almost doubled its health, which was a planned thing, and it had like a couple of legendary actions, 3 per round to be specific, and it could use one of them to do an extra attack after an enemy had, after a player had taken the turn, and it could do 2 actions to basically cast shield to give it a plus 5 to its AC, but it was kind of flavoured like chains would come up and like very anime style and prevent the attack. In addition to that, there was like 1 round of lair actions at the start of the combat, where the Chain Devil converts the 4 skeletons that are on the of the sacrificed men that are on the big stones, the giant stones, and turned them into chain imps. I basically just used the skeleton stat block. They were there just to divide up some of the damage and divert the player's attention and things like that. They weren't too tough. So I believe the initiative order was Mutiny, Hruna, Frostmaiden, Dagna, then it was the Chain Devil, and then Rime at the end. She rolled quite poorly. So with Mutiny up first, there was a little wondering what to do, like should she run, should she attack, but feeling pretty confident and not too bad on the health and spell slot side of things. She decided to attack, and with her first 2 attacks, as well as sending Azazel in, she managed to get some good hits in. As you would expect with a +9 to hit ranger. Next up was Hruna, who spends her action getting in close and doing some like sneak attack damage. Frostmaiden, who I actually had to make. Frostmaiden had to make a wisdom save before acting because, of course, he does not see a chain devil. He sees Corvus, his ex-commander, and is filled with rage. And the wisdom save is to resist, basically just wanting to run straight towards it and getting his face-to-face revenge. Which on the first turn he succeeds. He then goes ahead and does a bunch of damage, like sneak attack damage, and I think during this fight Frostmaiden even got a few crits. Next was Dagna's turn, and this is the moment that I alluded to last session. This is in the last episode. This is the thing I've been looking forward to. So I say to Rime that she sees this blue magic and like these blue like flames emerge and dissipate from Rime as she's standing next to her. I say to her that it's very similar to the blue eyes that the Winter Wolves had when they first met Frostmaiden. And Dagna is kind of looking back at Rime like with eyes that looks like the first time. I don't know if the players picked up on it, but obviously whatever charm that was on her had been lifted. And like the blue, the way I described the magic was supposed to be that one hint to remind them of the Talking Wolves, and perhaps maybe they're linked. I don't know if any of the players picked up on that, but of course they are linked. It's all to do with Ravison. Another facet they've yet to delve into too much. But yes, so Rime then continued to see these well of tears gather in Dagna's eyes. And then the following occurred. Dagna ran over to Rime, hugged her quite strongly and said, I thought you were dead, and started explaining like when the spirits attacked the camp that all she could think about was Rime and if they had got to her too. Well, that's a bit of a weird thing for her to say, isn't it? So like it's very strange. So yeah, she continues like pulling back from the hug, but like still with her hands on her shoulders, and she begins to touch her face, and Rime can see like the roller coaster of emotion and like the look of tons of memories that's coming in and out of Dagna's face. And there's a little bit of confusion from Rayna for a while, and there's like a little small back and forth as well as things aren't really making sense. But as eventually Dagna looks over to the Chain Devil, and with tears still in her face, she looks back to Rayna, and the look changes from this confusion to this swift determination and slight resignation to what she's going to decide to do. She turns back to Rayna. She says, "I'm sorry you had to find out this way, but Rayna, I need you to listen to me. You need to run." Dagna pushes Rayna back, shouts at her to run again, and then turns to face the Chain Devil and shouts like, "Hey!" and then starts to begin to transform into her bear form. And then she ends that little dialogue saying, "Stay away from my daughter." And I just let that sink in. Like, Carl went, "Wait, what? Shit!" And like Dan, I don't think didn't know what to do, as he and Rayna were kind of just both stunned by that drop, as Dagna just kind of wades into. I didn't give them time to talk about it either. I just said it and went, right, and then she's going to attack. I just let them went straight into it so they could like process that on their own kind of front, and rather than have this little quiet moment for them to realise. So just a quick reminder of Rayna's parental background as well, assuming that I had told it in one of the first episodes. Rayna's parents left her when she was like 2, and save for Leia, her grandmother was the one who brought her up, along with like the lessons of the other members of the tribe. So Dagna would have like taught her some things as the hunter, but yeah, Rayna believed that her parents went missing in the Sea of Winters when she was young. She was always told, that they left her, when she was like 2 years old, and her grandmother brought her up. So yeah, what's going on there then? And unfortunately, you don't find out until a bit later. So let's just continue on the fight. Kind of string you guys along with the same kind of thought process that Rayna was having. So that aside, the fight continued, and after a round of not doing so much damage, it kind of continues back and forth with people getting grappled by chains. Dagna starts taking a lot of the damage as she starts putting herself in harm's way, so the others can shouting at them to try and escape. Rayna, who is also failing her wisdom saves, is frightened because she doesn't see the Chain Devil either. She sees the big shadowy panther creature that has clung to her since her journey to the Vindel Wildlands. So yeah, she's kind of frightened. She can't walk towards it. She can hardly even look at it really. But she try and break Dagna 3 from some chains at one point. Like, she throws her hand axe, she rolls well, so I kind of allow it to break her 3. Not that that's really how that works, but it's fine. And then she kind of sees the state after a while of what Dagna is in. She's been Dagna is near ripped apart. She's got cuts all over her. She's got broken bones. She's looking really rough. And Rayna, by the way, is really low on hit points. I don't know if I said that last episode, but she is really low on hit points. She doesn't have many resources left from just what happened with the wraiths and stuff. She is down. She is ill. She is not doing well. And she's pretty much this entire fight did nothing but kind of just run between cover spots, just desperately trying not to get hit, while everyone decided to stay and fight because she was at risk this fight. Everyone got really low during this fight. Everyone was really quite close. So yeah, Dagna, in her battered stupor, just continued to shout, continued to scream for them all to run, as she kind of just at this point had had resigned to her martyrdom, her sacrifice to save this group, and she just continues to wade back into the Chain Devil, who's soaking up a lot of the hits. And it's around this point where Mutiny, some rounds later, telepathically messages everyone and asks, guys, I don't know if we're doing anything to this thing. Should we run? And Rayna kind of looks over to Forsberg, who is hiding behind one of the stones, getting some crossbow shots in. And Carl describes to them that Forsberg looks genuinely afraid for one of the first times that they've seen. And Carl even DM'd me to say that he hadn't considered running until they suggested it, or rather, Forsberg hadn't even considered running until Mutiny had said. But after some figuring out and circling around the table with what to do, I just said, right, you need to make a decision now. We've talked about it for 5-10 minutes. You need to decide what you're going to do. And Mutiny attacked. She decided to stay into the fray and just keep going, with the knowledge that if they ran away, this thing was probably going to find her anyway, because it's got her scent. you know, it's a bounty hunter demon kind of thing. It won't be long before it finds her again. So they decide she decides to stay and keep attacking. And it's here where Forsburn has an idea, an alternative way to perhaps take out the Chain Devil. The Chain Devil's turn was next, and he on the next Chain Devil's turn rather, he kind of just let out a roar and just backhanded Dagna right like 10 feet across, 10-15 feet into the side of the stone, and she just fell like slumped to the ground. And Raina began to lose it at this point as she sees this woman who she thought was just her mentor, who might turn out to be her mother, question mark, who just like bashed aside and is probably rolling death saves. And yes, she was rolling death saves. Force burns the next turn, and he pulls out of his pack a crowbar, some climbing equipment, and like kind of asks me how thick he thinks the giant stone thing is. So you can kind of see where his line of thinking is going, and he begins to spend his turn attempting to chip away at the base of this giant stone on the outside of the battle arena, and he shouts out for Raina. Raina runs over, kind of like wreathing in her rage, in her adrenaline, in her confusion, in her confliction for whatever's going on, like not really knowing what's doing, and just letting that rage take over, giving herself over to the spirits, kind of letting her true self appear. And she just begins to attack, like over and over, recklessly in all of it, like this base of the stone. With her axe, she just starts going nuts at the base of this thing, seeing what Forsman is trying to do. And meanwhile, Hruna, Mutiny, Azazel are doing their best to kind of just distract the Chain Devil from them over there, who are both quite on low hit points. One more hit from them, and it could be, you know, it could be it. When the round eventually comes back to Forsburn, he has to make a wisdom save, and this is a point where I knew I had got them enthralled in this, because the moment I said, "Oh, you're gonna have to make a wisdom save before you do your turn," and everyone just went, "No!" You know, screamed out like, "What the fuck?" You know, they were into it at that point. That was a big signifier for that, and for most of this fight, the group was very emotive. They were very into it. He, of course, just manages to scrape a success on that, and he puts a few more chips into the base, and then on Raina's next turn, she's able to topple the stone over, and it lands on the Chain Devil, banishing and destroying the devil from this plane as it disappears, returning back to hell. It was an epic fight, something I really cannot contain into like 3 hours worth of fighting. You just cannot contain in a little one shot like this, in a little session diary. It was a really good fight. Everyone was really involved. It was super good. So with the devil gone, Raina immediately goes over to Dagna's side, who actually critically failed her first death save and then just failed on her second. So she was there dying. She was about to die. Raina calls for Mutiny to cast Cure Wound. She calls her over, and as she's kind of attempting to cast, Dagna just opens her eyes and like takes Raina's hand, and she begins to ask her if she remembers the story of Ilva the She-Wolf that Safer Valea would have told her as a child. And Raina's like, a little bit, you know, she's got a bit confused, trying to contain what she's feeling, and Dagna begins to explain, like, you know, she was like this brash warrior that would run off, much like Raina did when she was, much like Raina did when she was with the tribe, and just generally be a nuisance around the camp and things like that. And then Dagna just reveals that story was her. Her real name is Ilva Aracséa. And when she was young, not too different from Raina's age. Oh, by the way, this entire time, Dagna / Ilva has been calling Raina by her real name, Freda. So this whole time, she's also been calling her Freda. That's also should have been a signifier for Dan saying that something's gone on. So yeah, Ilva's, when he was about Freda's age, had met a young, sweet, she describes a young, sweet, strong boy, a wandering warrior from Bremen, who she met in Bremen rather, and they fell in love, and time would come to pass, where Ilva would fall pregnant with obviously Freda, and there was be a moment back at the tribe where the Safer Valea, who Raina believes is her grandmother, just said, like, Satha didn't have an apprentice or like a next in line, if you like, and more or less the kind of like decreed that she will have the child. The child will be made to be brought up, to be trained to be the next Satha. So um, Dagna slash Ilva kind of explains that everyone made up that story about Rhaena's parents and had to go along with it because that was the Satha Valeria's will. And so she continues to do this kind of, like it killed it every day to see Rhaena growing up and not being able to say that she was hers, and explaining that is why she left a lot of the time to go and hunt, and that is why she embraced the seeming, the change that the Thrakari can do to achieve their like animalistic forms, because undergoing that change gets rid of some of that emotion. It's how she dealt with not being able to have her daughter as her own and having to keep that secret along with the tribe. And it's after this kind of Mutiny just looks up at Rhaena and shakes her head to kind of confirm that New Moons isn't taking hold, and like this is the last moments of Ilva's life. This is the last moments of Rhaena, Freda's mother's life. And Rhaena, I keep calling her Rhaena, but yeah, Rhaena begins to break down, and like in Dagna's last breath, or Ilva's last breath, she kind of like takes her pack out. She gives all the ingredients for that cure for Satha Eora to Rhaena, and she tells her that Satha Eora can answer any more questions that she has. Um, she left her resting at the Astar Thillin, which is a sort of holy site within Yashagal Forest, which Dan will have notes on. And she asks Rhaena to promise her that she will finish what she started and save the tribe. She will reunite the tribe and do what she is meant to be doing. Which of course Freda agrees to. Um, and after a little bit more sobbing, and then oh please ma, don't go, kind of thing. It's at this point where Dan actually does begin to draw tears, and Ilva holds Freda's face, smiles, and says that she knows she's very proud of her, and all that kind of stuff. She knows exactly that she'd be everything that the tribe knew she would. She told her to listen to them, and them being vague, but it's like assumed that it means like her friends, the spirits, all that kind of stuff. She tells Freda not to be afraid of the darkness, never to be afraid to be what you are meant to be, and to always be who you really are. And then her hand just simply goes limp in Rhaena's arms, and she passes, her eyes closed. And like I could have ended the session there really. We're only like 3.5 hours into the session, so we did continue on. There was a little brief sniffle I heard from someone. I don't know who it was, and it might have been Dan, but it also might have been other people. And there was kind of like that little brief silence of awkward silence. The music was really rising up that I had playing as well. My Frostgales playlist, it was hit a good track for this moment. It just happens accidentally. I see that happen on Critical Role. There'll be good music for a moment, and it just seems to happen like almost by chance, but it's perfect at the same time. And yeah, everyone had kind of like this silence, like, wow, this is real. Dan even messaged me after the session to say, I forgot how serious your setting is. I went, yeah, like there is room for jokes, but this is not Exandria level of joke. This is, I don't want it to be more real. This I enjoy that type of game more, a bit more seriousness, to touch on these kind of things. And so yeah, Rhaena, of course, prepares a proper burial for her mum. Mutiny kind of just wanders off to live with her thoughts for a moment, probably wrapped with a little bit of guilt. Same with Fruna, probably feeling a lot of guilt. She wanders off as well, just wondering, why did I bring these people here? We've not really gained anything. That kind of thoughts, the cyclic kind of things. And actually, now I think about it, this session I think did emotionally affect Susie somewhat, Mutiny's player. I mean, Ilva's story is a tragic one, and I do remember there were being some messages in the group chat about that she did, like, kind of get a bit upset about this, which isn't a bad thing. If you want to get your people to feel stuff, they'll get more invested in it. So yeah, this did touch a lot of people. Everyone did feel very emotive during these kind of things. Um, Forsburn, during this whole thing, Carl describes that Forsburn actually begins to well up a little bit, and like in the utter confusion and conflict of emotions that he is going through as a Khotun in this moment, in this ordeal, he kind of just kind of shakes it, tries to shake it loose. I even described him at the moment. He kind of gets the tear out of his eye, and he just watches it like freeze over in his hand as he kind of looks up and sees that there seems to be like this glass dome almost beginning to peel back as the true night sky and the aurora begins to reveal itself as the magic around this island is being dispelled. And so he offers his condolences, explains that Khotun don't care for their parents, they don't have a relationship with them, but what Khotun do revere is great warriors, and he goes, Dagna, Ilva, your mum was a great warrior, and there's that kind of a little bit of a moment there. And then while I render us off, creating the cairn for Ilva, Hrun and Forsman go gather some wood to make camp. As it is like near midnight by the time they get to this kind of fight, everyone in the party begins to notice the cold biting wind hitting in, as the protection of the dome dissipates from before. Everyone begins to feel it now, and after making the camp, Raina continues to stay over at the burial site, sobbing and kind of just in reverence, speaking to herself. Everything. She was there the entire night. She didn't move from the site. And then this is where Forsburn, before they went to sleep, kind of had a little moment with Mutiny. A moment that made me very proud as a DM, as Sulu really got into the RP for that moment as Mutiny. Forsburn basically kind of just showed his vulnerability. He asked things like he doesn't understand human culture, and how he and Mutiny are clearly very different, and we clearly don't fit in down here. But like he can't explain why he's beginning to feel stuff that he's never felt before. Despite not belonging here, he doesn't know how to deal with these feelings he's had, and he notices that Mutiny's able to keep her cool quite a lot, and he just doesn't know how she does it. He kind of says, he explains a bit about his background. He says like the one place that taught him everything, his people, everything about what he knows, and they don't want him. Like he says, he outright says like he's lost. He doesn't have anywhere to belong, and now he's feeling like this deep pain that he can't deal with amongst people that he's told he shouldn't be with. And Mutiny kind of has like this back and forth with him. He keeps going back. She tells him a little bit about herself, saying that she never knew her parents. She was brought up with humans, so part of her is part human. Despite being the tiefling, but it's all part of why they're all together. They're all runaways. They're all abandoned. They're all, otherwise people that don't belong anywhere. And it kind of is this really great moment, this back and forth, this really deep conversation they have with each other, as Forsburn's being very, very vulnerable in that moment, and Mutiny's trying to console him a little bit and try to wrestle with her own thoughts. And she kind of ends it by saying Forsburn, you may not have a family, and you don't have a home, but you have something if he wants it in the rest of the group. We are runaways. You have something here with us if you want it. And in general, it was just a very good role-play moment, and just another one of those moments, another one of those things. I say moments a lot in this, but it really was. It's like another one of those bittersweet things, happy, sad, tender things to happen at the end of that in-game night. So yeah, we all kind of had a little break after that, and we kind of just chatted a little bit, got some drinks, and kind of kind of just generally all nodding around the table, as it were, and having that warm fuzzy feeling we're so glad to be a part of something like this. It was generally one of those sessions. So right, we let's crack on. We come back from the break, and I'm going to fast forward a little bit because this episode is going on a little bit. In the morning, everyone is very quiet, as you might expect. Raina slept beside the cairn, and all night, as you also might expect. And Truna just kind of begins milling over that note that she had received from Forsberg the day before, trying to refocus, trying to put her thoughts aside, trying to get back on task. And she kind of suggests that maybe we should just look at some of the other towns along the coast. She doesn't really have much hope because they could just be anywhere, but she has this lead, so we've got to do at least do the little bit to pursue it, and hopefully find the trace of these Tuagar and find these commanders of the fallen that are mentioned in the note. So as they prepare to leave, Reyna still over at the cairn. Forsberg wanders over to grab her and like to get her to come with them, and Reyna stops him and asks if he could get the whole group to come over to him. And I don't have the speech that Dan wrote, but it was something because he spent most of his time just writing up a little speech after this all happened. In fact, he later told me he was actually preparing for Reyna to just leave the party at this point. But I'm glad he didn't, because that would have been dumb, I think. I don't see how it would have been true to Ilva's words at all. But it was something to the effect of, like, if we are to continue, I need you all to know something. And like, she begins to tell them of like, she knows about her faults. She didn't really know what her place was before, but she's beginning to think that she might know what her place is in the grand scheme of things. She knows, like, all the bad that can happen. She asked them all not to call her Reyna anymore, and that part of her is a lie. That is not who she really is. She asked them all to call her by her real name, Freda Aracséa, a member of the Thakari, daughter to Ilva Aracséa, and that Freda will be who she is going forward. Freda will be her true self. Freda will be the one who will be responsible going forward, and that sort of thing. Is that renouncing of the old name. A very cool little moment they had. Again, a moment. Forsberg makes a joke about humans and their sentimentality, and kind of wanders back to Hruna with a smirk on his face, kind of liking the fact that he's in this group. He's kind of had that fuzzy feeling going on. And he has to quickly kind of hide it before the others notice that he's obviously enjoying himself. So I think, yeah, Forsberg, I think, is actually quite happy to be in the group now. And Carl messaged me afterwards saying, like, I didn't want Forsberg to go down this happy route, especially after the last session, what happened to him. And I kind of just went, well, you don't have to play him like that, but this is how the game goes, it's like, man, it's so fulfilling. And I kind of hope it is kind of like proof that I can, to these guys, some of Carl in particular, I feel like questions a lot of my style or things as well. And I hope that it's kind of like proof that we can look. I can provide you with a fulfilling surprise. Dan had no idea. I can do, like, I'm a good DM. I hope this is like proof of that for him. I don't know why I feel like I need to, but yeah. At any rate, that's beside the point. Forsberg, yeah, I seriously really like Forsberg as a character. His conflict, his inner conflict and his whole deal, it's so cool. I actually prefer him to Stronus at the moment. Not that we're seeing much of him because he's been gone a lot of the time, but yeah, I really enjoy Forsberg and like being able to manipulate what stuff goes on there. So yeah, they return to the boat and after some discussion, decide to head to Caer Konig. And it's worth noting that it's about midday by the time they woke up, and because they had a long night, and it takes some time to travel to Caer Konig. So by the time they approach, it's about 4 or 5 p.m. Bring us to like the later afternoon, and they begin to see the layered crescent of that is Caer Konig. It's kind of like a village, a town, if you like, in like 2 layers. There's like a slightly lower layer near the lake, and then there's like a cliff face where the second layer is, in like a kind of crescent kind of shape. And as they approach, they can see off to the north the long ice snow dunes of the Long Shelf. A very familiar sight to Forsburn, probably the closest he's been to his homeland in the last month or so. And also a very tall tower off in the distance, very similar to Raza's Tower, which Hruna describes as the home to the Northlight. That's an artifact that has recently gone missing. It's kind of like this giant beacon to warn the town of threats coming from the north and to guide lost travelers home. It's kind of like a lighthouse, if you like, a little bit, but it's a little bit more than that. Hruna also tells the group about the speaker there, who they had heard before. The group had heard before was Khotun, which she explains was actually that the speaker here was instrumental in the War of the Long Shelf, as he essentially betrayed FrostClan to assist the humans and those who fought on the Ten Town side. A note to which Forsburn doesn't really know how to react to at this point. He's kind of there's the loyalty part of him, which is kind of battling with the maybe there's more to this than meets the eye. Maybe there's more to humans than whatever. It's very again, it's that tugs on that conflict again. Hruna begins to take them to the tavern and leads them up to the path to the higher crescent, and also shows them what she says is a pinnacle of human Jorga and Khotun design. There's this massive fortress over to the north, a place which has been newly built since the last war. And Reyna is able to spot some on the buttress towers, which look like large crossbows, which Forsburn will then explain are like ballista siege weaponry, and a very formidable bastion should FrostClan attempt another attack on Caer Konig. And so alas, Hruna continues to take them to the Northern Light, the tavern named after the tower artifact, and along the way they see this large hooded figure who kind of just slump and fall over some boxes. One of them investigates and finds that the figure is in fact a Khotun, and he appears to be very, very drunk. The stench of alcohol on him, just insane. Like carrying like some fire whiskey in his hands, which is strong stuff. He wears speaker's attire, but it's very dirty and worn and ragged. He has like black fur with two horns that point forward, one of which is like almost completely worn down. And Forsburn kind of teases him, saying, "Well, now I can see why FrostClan is so eager to get to you." To which the guy just kind of plays, "Well, fuck it at ease, soldier," And soon enough, Hruna comes in, calls out to him, and says, "Oh, knock it off, Flintlock." And the speaker, Flintlock, kind of just remarks, "Oh, like, what have I done this time, Hruna?" Kind of signifying that these two seem to know each other. She simply just says, like, we need to talk. Me and my partner need to talk, and she kind of just forcefully begins to carry him back to the tavern, removing the drink from his hand. Inside the inn, she sets up a table, and there are a pair of wood elf girls here, well, ladies, wood elf twins actually, kind of react almost immediately to seeing Hruna and prepare what is assumed to be like the usual process of trying to sober the speaker up. And they also get a round of drinks from for everyone else as well. And so this is Ali and Corey, the Shorad twins, kind of like they are in the book, just changed a little bit, as like with everything. And that is where we had to leave it off. There was more I wanted to do, but it was getting late by this point, and we essentially just ran out of time, and it was a good moment. So we just left it off there. So yeah, that was that session. There isn't really much to say about that one. I think it all speaks for itself. A genuinely awesome session. Really left that one feeling like, I don't know, really, like, just emotionally fulfilled. The payoff, and I think we all did. We all, like I said, I got numerous messages from the guys afterwards, and yeah, Carl didn't stop gushing about it, and it's like very, very nice feeling to be a part of something like this. It was that proud, accomplished feeling. So yeah, we'll leave it at that for now. That has been session 18, Remember the She-Wolf, and we will see you guys next time.